Well, it was tense. It was exciting, but the Mariners got it done. They have now split the series, the first two games with the Detroit Tigers. They get back to business tomorrow in Detroit for Game 3. And a man who I had the pleasure of hanging out with, Dave. Got a chance to do a couple shows with him.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, I'm bragging. I'm sitting next to him in the press box, going over the lineups. This is where they'd probably bring in the righty. This is probably where the lefties go. That was a dream for me. We're talking about the one, the only Jon Morosi is with us on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook Hotline. How are you, my friend?
That was quite a weekend, my friends. I loved it, and the best part about a split is that we are guaranteed at least two more games of this drama. And Dave, I got to tell you, Bob is all heart, man. He is all invested in these games.
I was going to JP, I'm a mess. I'm very nervous. I'm very nervous. But no, it was seriously, in all honesty, that was a lot of fun doing those shows. It was great having you there. And if there happens to be a Game 5, are you back here?
There's a lot of different travel scenarios zipping back and forth, but certainly whichever team wins Game 3 has the chance to close the thing out in Game 4. And it just, though, to me, guys, this feels like a 5-game series. I said at the outset, talking to you and Charlie, Bob, on Saturday, I felt like it was Mariners in 5, and that's probably where I'll stay in terms of my prediction. I just think it's two closely matched teams. You get 3-2 game in Game 1, 3-2 game the other way in Game 2. I don't see either team scoring 10, 13 runs like we saw Toronto score on the Yankees. So I think it's going to be tightly played and not a whole lot of comfortable pitches thrown for the balance of this series.
Yeah, it just seems like they are a very even matchup. And is that kind of what you thought going into this, that it was going to be low scoring and one-run games in this series?
Yes, more or less, the series has played out, I think, the way a lot of observers thought it would. I think the thing that stands out to me, and one of the reasons why I believe that Seattle ultimately has the upper hand, is the best two offensive players in this series are both on the Mariners, and they're both playing well. And usually, if in the case of Cal and Julio, if they're both rolling like they are right now, taking good at-bats, and like we talked about with Julio, even his takes were good. Like he looks phenomenal right now. Balance at the plate. And this is now his, third postseason series. Every series he's played, he's gotten better and better with more experience. I just think that he in a postseason situation that against a late inning leverage guy, you're looking at the lineup card and saying, okay, I think this team has a good chance of scoring this half inning, especially coming off of what was a gut punch top of the 8th for the Mariners. But you just felt that way. I think with Cal, and that was a rope double, and then Julio going down the other line. I just thought that two great at-bats by two elite players who candidly they're just better offensively, the two of them, than anybody on the Tigers roster. And at least at this moment in time. And I think for that reason, you believe that's going to carry the day, especially if you're going to get meaningful contributions from guys like Polanco, who, let's be honest, just had his biggest day in a Mariner uniform over 2 seasons was yesterday. And what a time to do it. The first player in more than 4 years with a 2-homer game off of Tarek Skubal. Just one of those postseason performances we're probably going to be talking about for a long, long time to come.
Yeah, that was beyond huge, and he made a couple of really nice plays in the field as well. So just an all-around day for Polanco. But JP, do you look at this series so far, and I know it's only 2 games, but Julio has been absolutely huge in both. Is this where the superstar moniker starts to fit and become more natural? Because that was the big debate, right? We talked about it all year, his really slow first half, and people were getting mad. Don't call him a star. He's not a superstar. Look at him. And then his second half, he goes nuts. He's on fire. But now he's doing it when it matters most, under the brightest spotlight, when it's basically do or die. He's coming up clutch. Is this where that transformation happens?
It is, and certainly it can be. The more rounds they win, the more that description cements itself. And you think about great recent postseason performers. Carlos Correa is one example, and he's someone that no matter where he was playing, including even in Minnesota during the time that they made it to the playoffs, he's just someone that seems to really embrace the moment. Giancarlo Stanton, another example, and someone in Stanton's case whose Hall of Fame resume, in my opinion, is augmented significantly by what he's been able to do in October. He's been just a noted October superstar. And it was interesting when Julio was asked about this yesterday at the press conference. He basically said, "Hey, if you want to put those terms on me, being clutch, like he's not going to fight you, obviously." But he actually gave a great answer, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he talked more about kind of having his approach fit within the team plan and the team success. And I just think that when you've got someone with that level of talent who stops trying to do too much, that's when really special things happen. And those hitters that come to the plate in October and realize correctly that when you've got a man on second base, that the pressure is on the pitcher and not on you. And that was part of Derek Jeter's genius throughout his career, is that he understood that, and he had the calmness and poise and confidence to execute more times than not. And I think that's, to me, that same aura that you're now starting to see with Julio. I give him an immense amount of credit because he sort of went away, took like that brief week of sabbatical at the All-Star break just to kind of reset, take care of his body, and he came back, I think, a different guy and different person. And it's interesting, too, that in a lot of ways, the turning point of the Mariners season happened where they're going to play their next game, which is Detroit. We talked before about that gut punch loss they had when Wu lost the no-hitter in New York, and the Mariners ended up losing the game in that crazy comeback by the Yankees. And then the next day they were facing Skubal in Detroit, and they won. And I think if you go back to that point, that's when I think this Mariner team started to get their identity. And I really believe that is a huge part of why, and Julio's play is a huge part of why they are where they are right now. It was interesting. I think we had a graphic on MLB Network this morning, and I believe the date was July. If it wasn't July 1, it was somewhere around then. That since then, Julio's got the best wins above replacement of any player in any position player in the game. So that right there tells you that since the midpoint of the season, he's been quite definitionally the best position player in the game, and right now he certainly looks like it.
Hey, Josh Naylor coming into the series had like a 12-game hitting streak. There was, I think, half of them were 2 hits, and I mean you got to go all the way back to the Tampa series for him to get shut out 2 times in a row. I mean, look, like you said, we worry. We worry about that kind of thing. And I mean, I'm not worried about Naylor necessarily, but it is kind of almost eerie to see that he hasn't had a hit in a couple. Is there anything there, do you think? Or do you think, okay, he's gonna turn it back around here soon like he had been doing all year?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. And first and foremost, one of those 2 starts is against Skubal, so that's about as tough of a left-on-left matchup as you're ever going to see in Major League Baseball right now. So I think that's part A. Obviously, there's a lot going on in his life right now, getting ready, and his wife to have a baby. So I'm sure that, and again, he's never going to use that as an excuse. He's too much of a pro for that. But that's just human. That's life, and that's stuff that's way more important than baseball. So it wouldn't surprise me if just on some level the logistics of everything are a little overwhelming. I mean, I remember what that felt like, just being a first-time father. So that's a lot. But I think I'm a big believer in Josh. I think his focus is excellent. He's one of the best base runners on the team, as has been well documented. I don't read much of anything into the error last night late. I mean, obviously it's great for him that it's not the story. I mean, it's great for him that Cal and Julio came up big and that Munoz closed it out, because that would have been kind of a tough play to sit on for a long flight if the Mariners had lost that game, just given how well they had pitched up until that point. But I trust him. I think he's a pro's pro. He's got a lot of rich experience in the game. He's played a lot of high-level baseball, even going back to his junior years playing for Canada's national team. So he's not going to be intimidated by this. He's been in big situations in the past. He played in the ALCS a year ago with the Guardians. So I'm a big believer in Josh Naylor, and I think when you see him at the plate, you still think he's got a chance to do some damage. And by the way, if he does get going, and if Julio and Cal stay the way they are, and if Polanco keeps doing what he's doing, I mean, you start to look and see that you can dream on this group a little bit. I mean, this is a legitimate. It's a much better lineup than they had last time they were in the playoffs. I mean, there's not even a comparison for me. And so I look at this group, and I think Arozarena's bat has come around a little bit. And I think in general, I think we talked about this in game 1. 4 of the 5 hardest hit balls were off of Mariner bats, even though they lost that game. So they hit into some bad luck in game 1. And by the way, Naylor had that deep drive that was right after the Julio homer that nearly went over the wall too. And so he's 5-10 feet away on that one from having a home run, and it's a very, very different conversation.
Yeah, the guy I'm looking at that really needs to pick it up now is Gino. I mean, they've really gotten nothing out of him, and he's such a power threat. Obviously, he's coming off a great year, but he wasn't quite the same hitter since he's been here with Seattle, and so far he's not produced anything. So that's just a spot that needs to come up big. But I'm curious, JP, just from your perspective, getting that win and we talked about this before the series, that it would be the most Mariner thing ever to lose to the bullpen, lose to a young guy with very little experience, and then come back and beat Skubal. That's just how the Mariners seem to do it.
That's what happened.
But how much does that help them mentally in terms of relaxing, in terms of just confidence? Like, you know what, we beat their ace again. We found a way to get it done on a night where you're coming off as you called it, a gut punch, and it was, and they got it done. They were able to come through. Is that something you think can carry over to Detroit, where they just relax and we're like, we're good, we got this?
I do think that's the case, and I also believe this too, Bob, that once you've at least earned a split and then you go on the road, I would say this, that the Mariners, obviously they want to win the next 2 games. Clearly that's everybody's goal here. But when you look at the way the series sets up, if Gilbert has a lead after the 6th inning tomorrow, I would throw every asset that I can to make sure that I win that game, even if I feel like I'm leaving myself a little bit short for game 4, because the key idea here is you win a game, you guarantee that you get a chance to play at T-Mobile again. That's it. So you win a game and you know that you're going home. And that, I think, is to play some baseball. You win 2, you're going home to play the ALCS. But you win a game, then the Tigers got to come back there to win this series. And I think that's just such an important idea to have out there. Win a game. If you can chase game 3 and it's there in front of you, go do it. And to be honest, I think the matchup favors the Mariners for game 3. I think Gilbert is someone I trust. I think there's a reason why the Mariners were comfortable with Gilbert pitching on the road. I just think his stuff plays in any ballpark, any atmosphere. I think it was a really smart move by Dan Wilson to have Castillo pitch at home. I thought his stuff played up, and to me, the story of the game yesterday, there were a couple different heroes there, but the efficiency with which Castillo pitched the second time through after a very arduous first time, that was everything, because that allowed the pen to line up. That allowed them to find a better pocket for Spire as opposed to having to rush him into a game earlier. That was everything. The way that he pitched the second time through, to me, was the deciding element in that game last night. And then, of course, Munoz being available to go back-to-back days, I just thought that was crucial too. So, I mean, mentally, I do think that momentum can carry over for sure. That there's a certain comfort and quality of at bats. I just think on both sides of it now each team feels like they're in the series, and now it's a 3-game series. And both teams are going to love their chances to win a 3-game series, and both teams should feel confident. I mean, the Tigers still have Skubal pitching one more time as long as they win a game in Detroit, which they should feel confident about doing. So I think both teams probably have to operate under the assumption it's going to go 5 because of just how tight it's been. And you're pointing out that, yes, there are some positive things for the Mariners to be excited about, but they need to get Gino going, and Rosarena probably still has one more gear to get to. So there's still some elements of this team where, let's be honest, neither team, if we're being fair, neither team in this series looks as good right now as the Blue Jays do. The Blue Jays look like, I mean, they are clicking on all cylinders. Savage, their rookie, didn't even give up a hit yesterday as a starting pitcher, and they just hung 10 and 13 runs on the Yankees. I mean, they're unbelievable right now. So I think the most momentum of all, probably in the entire playoff picture right now, belongs to the Toronto Blue Jays. And I think Seattle, not only the goal is to win, but win in such a fashion that you're able to keep your pitching fresh and also try to get as many guys going offensively because you're going to need more than Julio and Cal if you're actually going to win the World Series.
Is there anything that Dan Wilson did that either of you guys thought was suspect or good moves, bad moves? How did you think Dan performed in the? I know Bob does.
Well, I don't want to steal Bob's answer, but it did appear to me that there's probably a little bit of a chalk talk, if you could call it that, in the old strategy room after game one. Says, you know what? If there's a spot in the middle of the game when Kerry Carpenter comes up, Gabe Spire is in the game. Okay, Gabe Spire is going to pitch, and sure enough, there he came. So I think that, and listen, I don't think that decision by Dan Wilson lost game one. I think it was one of the elements in it. I don't think that was a determinative moment necessarily that swung the outcome entirely, because Spire still pitched 4 outs later on in that game and was able to get some key outs there. So I just think that Gabe Spire has, if the baseball world didn't know him yet, they do now, and that he is a true X factor in this series. And I believe that Gabe Spire is someone that we're going to see again and again. And I'll be curious to see going forward now, how often does A.J. Hinch deploy different pinch hitters? Does he have the nerve, let's say, to pinch hit for Carpenter in a big it depends on when Spire is into the game. I think if Spire is into the game in the 7th inning to face Carpenter, it's maybe easier for the Tigers to hit for him, because you might be giving up only one more at-bat. And you assume the guys after Spire, Brash and Munoz, are both going to be righties. You really want Carpenter to have one more at-bat against those righties later on in the game. He is probably your best big swing home run threat. And by the way, the Tigers, too, on their side, they need more from Riley Green. They need fewer strikeouts. They need a little more from Meadows at the bottom of the lineup. I mean, it's just there are two teams here that are good and have the potential to be great, but their flaws will also become more and more evident over the course of a 5-game series, which is, again, part of my thesis as to why I think it's going to be a 5-game series.
It's awesome having you out here, and hopefully this is just the beginning of the run of seeing you out here and seeing the Mariners progress through the postseason. Have a great week, man. We'll be talking. We'll be talking in person soon. I know it. So we appreciate you, my friend.
You bet. I'll be down at the ballpark next couple of days. So you guys give me a holler, and I'll be happy to kind of, Bob, if you're getting too anxious during the game, just give me a call. I'll be happy to walk you through it. We'll talk to bullpen and I together. Okay.
I appreciate you, John.
You got it, guys. Thanks so much.